Do we have a must-win game in Morgantown already? It's only January 6th, and West Virginia hosts Cincinnati at Hope Coliseum, looking to keep their perfect streak alive at home. That's about the only thing that's gone well this season. We're going to have you covered here in this game preview, Mountaineers and Bearcats, Tuesday night at Hope Coliseum. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Mountaineer Moment, episode 122. And this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And we've got you covered here in the Cincinnati preview, opponent preview for West Virginia as they get ready to host the Cincinnati Bearcats. And I don't know if it's a must-win. Obviously, it's like literally not a must-win, but this is one you want to get because you don't want to fall to 0-2 in conference play. You're coming off a beatdown against Iowa State, and you have a Cincinnati team that's coming in here. It's no slouch. They sit at 8-6, but they're coming off a game against Houston in which they lost by just 7 points, had a second-half lead of 10 points against them. So no slouch, and we're going to get you covered here with a preview of all that you need to know regarding this Cincinnati Bearcats team as we do every game of the season, giving you a preview of what's to come when the Mountaineers host the Bearcats on Tuesday night at Hope Coliseum. But again, this is Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. Hit that subscribe button for us as we continue to build this community. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Hit that subscribe button, please, please. And to help me, help you be in the know, and we have new content coming your way regarding this West Virginia football and basketball program. All right, so Mountaineers are going to be back in Morgantown after falling to number 3 Iowa State on the road at Hilton Coliseum. Their first road game, true road game of the season. All 4 of their losses previous to that came on neutral site floors, and then you go on the road to one of the most difficult environments in all of college basketball. Ames, Iowa, undefeated Iowa State Cyclones. You started that game all right. Iowa State turned it on to start over the course of the second half of the first half, took a 13-point lead into halftime, and they did not look back. Now, West Virginia gets an opportunity back at home, where you haven't lost yet, against the Cincinnati team, who's making the trip over to Morgantown across the border from Ohio. So we're going to look at this the Cincinnati team, who they are, numbers to know, some players to know, and some things to keep an eye on, and then just some final thoughts on this game. But Cincinnati entered Big 12 play with a record of 8-5. They actually have 3 non-conference opponents that are the same as the Mountaineers, including the Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers, who they beat by 17. And 2 of Cincinnati's losses came against teams that West Virginia lost to as well. Bearcats lost to Xavier by 5 and Clemson by 3. Obviously, those are the 2 teams that beat West Virginia down in Charleston, South Carolina in that tournament back in November. Bearcats also lost to Louisville in November. And if you look at Cincinnati's schedule to this point, their resume to this point, it's pretty similar to that of West Virginia. Cincinnati has yet to beat anybody, it seems like. That's where West Virginia is. They don't have a resume-building win in their portfolio in any way, shape, or form, and that's Cincinnati. All of their wins come against mid-major, low-major programs, and carbon copy, right? That's exactly what West Virginia looks like this year. They've had opportunities, right? West Virginia had an opportunity against Clemson and Xavier. So did Cincinnati. West Virginia had an opportunity against a top 10 team in the Big 12 in Iowa State. So did Cincinnati when they played Houston. Both of these teams are coming off losses to those 2 teams. And, again, Cincinnati had a 10-point lead early in that second half before surrendering it. And Houston put their foot on the gas and didn't look back, won that one 67-60 on the road against Cincinnati. So that's how they got here, 8-6, 0-1 in Big 12 play, and heading to Morgantown for another opportunity to get in the win column, just like West Virginia is looking to do. So it's a big one. Now, I'm going to give a few numbers to know here and then players to know, and then we'll get you out of here. But a few numbers. One is 15. 15. Cincinnati committed 15 turnovers in the home loss to Houston. Of course, unless you're living under a rock, you know Houston's one of the nation's best defenses year in and year out. So good. And the 15 turnovers for Cincinnati is actually only slightly above their season average, who's averaging the most turnovers per game in the Big 12 with over 13 turnovers per game. So they are prone to turn the rock over. Another number, 31.6. 31.6. In the first two games to open Big 12, West Virginia will have faced the league's best and worst three-point shooting team. Iowa State making an impressive 41.9% of their threes, and that trend continued against West Virginia in that game. They made 13 out of 25, and then Cincinnati is over 10% under that. About 31.5% of their attempts from beyond the arc go in, and that's the worst in the Big 12. And all the while, they're averaging the second most attempts from beyond the arc. So they're not making a whole lot of them, but they're firing them up with the best of them in the Big 12. So just an interesting note, West Virginia's first game in the Big 12, they play best shooting team in the league, close to the country. And then here against Cincinnati, they're going to get a shot at one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the conference. Last number I want to give you relating to that is their scoring. So through the team's first 14 games, there's only one team in the Big 12 that's averaging fewer points than West Virginia. And you guessed it, that is Cincinnati by a slim margin. West Virginia is averaging 74.9 points per game. Cincinnati at 74.6. So it's going to be interesting to see how West Virginia and their defense play against an offense that has struggled at times this season. Again, obviously, you came against Iowa State, an offense that doesn't seem to struggle ever, and you gave up 80 points to them. That's not what Ross Hodge wants, but very, very intrigued by this matchup because West Virginia, in all of their losses, there have been some significant defensive struggles, right? They have not lost a game in the 50s and 60s, right? They have, or maybe they did in the 60s once, but defensively, West Virginia has struggled at times, giving up big second halves, so we'll see what it looks like when they host Cincinnati. Now, a few players to know. We would be remiss to not mention a pair of former Mountaineers making the trip back to Morgantown. Sincere Harris, who spent last season as a Mountaineer and has since taken his talents over to Cincinnati. He's averaging almost 7 points a game. He's a defensive-minded guard who, if you remember last year, did a lot of really, really great things defensively, but struggled immensely offensively. In particular, from beyond the arc, he shot just 11.3. That's not a joke. He shot 11.3% from three on nearly 2 attempts per game. So teams were giving him looks, and he just refused to knock them down. So that's one. Sincere Harris, scrappy defender. Miss him as a Mountaineer. He really did some great things. He just couldn't shoot the rock for the life of him. But second player that's come back to Morgantown who was not a teammate of Sincere Harris is Kerr Kriisa. That's right, Kerr Kriisa, who was here back in 2023-2024 in that season. He's currently with Cincinnati, averaging 7 points and 3.8 assists per game. You remember Kriisa started his career at Arizona, made his way to Morgantown, then went to Kentucky where he had an early season injury, obviously getting another year of eligibility and using it in Cincinnati this season, averaging 7 points and 3.8 assists. So welcome back to those two guys, Sincere Harris and Kerr Kriisa. Now, the Bearcats, a couple more guys we'll let you know who really thrive on this team. They're led by Baba Miller, who's averaging a double-double this season, transfer from FAU. He's averaging 13 and 11 to go along with the 1.5 blocks. At FAU last year, he averaged 11.7 boards and I think 1.7 blocks. So really, really good, averaging a double-double, and is playing really well this season, is the 6'11 Miller. Senior Day Thomas, another familiar face, just not one that was in Morgantown, a familiar face for Big 12 fans, Cincinnati. He's averaging double figures through his first 2 seasons as a Bearcat. Now in season number 3 as a Bearcat, averaging 13 points, 3.5 boards, and almost 4 assists. All of those are career-high numbers for Day Thomas. And again, this is a team shooting just 31% from beyond the arc, but that number would be a lot worse if it weren't for Thomas. He's shooting over 46% from 3 on his nearly 6 attempts per game. So that is significant. That's a number to be aware of. for Day Thomas and the Cincinnati team, because while they are not shooting it well from beyond the arc, Day Thomas is, and you simply cannot allow that to beat you. One man from beyond the arc. All right. West Virginia will host Cincinnati on January 6th, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on ESPN2 at the Hope Coliseum. My final kind of thoughts on this one, it's not a must-win, I get it, but this is one you really want to get. Not saying it like, West Virginia's a huge favorite or that Cincinnati is no good or any of that, because that's not the case. It's just you got to start winning games. You've got to start winning games, and let's just say, call it how it is. Like, West Virginia is more likely to beat a Cincinnati team than they are a Houston team, or an Iowa State team, or an Arizona team, or a BYU team. Right? Those are the top tier in the Big 12, and West Virginia is not on that level. And if you want to stack wins, if you want to start winning games, if you want to make some noise or something in the Big 12, then you got to start winning some basketball games. And it's an opportunity to do so at home, defend your home floor against Cincinnati, and West Virginia had better do that. We'll see if Belo is back in action. Obviously missed him against Iowa State. They said he was day-to-day at that point. Now, obviously, a few days later, we'll see if he is in the lineup. That would be nice for West Virginia. And some of the things that we've said all year, you got to have some other guys step up. Honor Huff and Chance Moore carrying a lot of the load offensively. It would be really nice for another guy, Trayson Eaglestaff, Jasper Floyd, somebody to come out and give you 15. Right? That would be kind of encouraging to not have so much rely on those guys' shoulders offensively, and then defensively. The numbers don't lie. It's still early in the season. We're one game into the conference play, but the numbers so far indicate that remaining schedule for your team, like Cincinnati's, not the best offense you're going to play. So show it, right? Hold them in the 50s. I don't know. Like let's play 40 minutes of defense, because we've seen Mountaineers play good defense even in the games that they've lost. Held Ohio State in the 20s, held Clemson in the 20s in the first half, and then it was a big second half that ended up costing you the game. So play defense for 40 minutes, get to 1-1 in conference play, and then get ready for a matchup with Kansas coming up on Saturday. That should be a fun one, should be a good atmosphere. Morgantown should be a better atmosphere if you go ahead and get this win right here against Cincinnati. So, again, we'll have you covered, as always, post-game reaction to this matchup between West Virginia and Cincinnati, and we will see you next time on Mountaineer Moment. Let's go Mountaineers.